Hello and welcome to a look at Builderland for the Amiga, a game that was released by Loriciel. Loriciel, or whatever, I'm no expert in that kind of pronunciations, which you may have gathered, but whatever the case, someone released this game. I can spell it for you, but never mind. It has the subtitle, The Story of Melba, which is quite peachy, I suppose. Ha! Got it? Peach Mel? Never mind. There's no plot in this particular title, or for this particular game, I should say, which makes it somewhat awkward because it gives me a few minutes to talk about the plot normally and knock it a bit and make a bit fun of it, and I don't have that option in this case. But our hero, Melba, is on a journey, and he's not particularly keen on stopping once he starts walking, which I can appreciate. I mean, I don't like stopping when I'm walking, I just like to get from point A to point B, and that is definitely the case for Melba as well. The gameplay implications of that, of course, is that you have to make sure that he can actually get to where he's trying to get to. And you do that by having various different objects on the screen that you can move around and use to plug holes so he doesn't fall into them, and put up ramps so he can scale walls and things like that. So while he is walking, you are trying to put things in the correct places so he can actually keep walking, until he eventually gets to a house where a monster is present, and then he has to do another puzzle section there in order to... Oh well, you have to do it, he's not going to do it for you, that would be too easy now, wouldn't it? But anyway, you have to solve a puzzle that will kill the monster, and then the monster will leave a heart, and once you have done that 8 times, 6 times, something like that, you are super powerful and can beat the final baddie, who's very, very bad, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's just... yeah, well... irrelevant. The concept is somewhat novel. I have had certain people comparing, or read certain people comparing it to certain other games, but let me return to that later on. While you have an option to stop Melba temporarily, you have to have him walking across the screen in order to scroll the screen, so the objects that you need to use in order to allow him to progress become visible, and then you can temporarily stop him and then try to work out very quickly what it is you need to do in order to make his further journey possible, and then start him up again. But the one thing that is about this particular title in that regard is that there is a very defined way you have to solve the puzzles. This is not a game where you can solve the puzzles willy-nilly. There is a predetermined way it has to be done. And even though you find a solution or come up with a solution that works, it may not work the way it was intended to work. So while you can get Melba to progress by following the solution you came up with, you can find yourself being completely screwed over because he walked under or over an item that is vital 2 minutes down the line, which of course you won't know before you've got to that point where he's suddenly stuck, and the only thing you can do is to hit F8 to force a game over and then start from the beginning yet again. From a technical point of view, graphics-wise, this game is not particularly impressive. It looks like some ancient 8-bit game that's been given a coat of paint and then been put into this particular title. But as I keep referring to in various different games, the graphics are functional, they show what they need to show, and as such, spiffy looking graphics could have been useful and nice and all that kind of stuff, I suppose, but it is not critical for the game to function. The sound side of things, there are no sound effects, so yeah, well, it's one of those things. You don't technically need them as it is, but it's nice having them around. So that is definitely a miss. Unfortunately, so is the music. You have different themes playing at different times when you are walking across or Melba's walking across the area, and then of course you get into those sort of boss fights, which are not boss fights, just puzzles. And the music is not particularly impressive. It's barely tolerable, I would say, and I don't blame people if they play this game that they turn their volume down, because yeah, I was tempted to do so myself. When it comes to controls, this is where I have the biggest gripe with this game, because it is joystick controlled. You use the joystick to move the pointer around and then pick up objects and then drop them down so Melba can continue to walk. If you need to stop Melba, you can hold down the fire button and move left, and then he will stop. And then you hold down the fire button and move right, and he will move right, and you start walking again. And personally, I would have preferred if mouse controls were available. It would have made the placement of various different objects so much more smooth. Because on certain screens you have one object that you need to place on his path in order to allow him to progress, but there are also certain other screens where you have to very, very quickly place 6 or 7 objects, and that can become a bit convoluted, especially when you realize that you have to place them in a specific order to make sure that further progression down the line is possible. And the joystick controls, they work, but barely, I would say. They are accurate, there's no doubt about that, but a mouse is by its very nature significantly faster and smoother, and I would have preferred that to be an option. Now, the main gripes I have read about this game is that people call it a Lemmings clone, which is puzzling to me because while thematically it is very, very similar, it is also playing in a very different way from Lemmings, and beyond that point, since Lemmings is considered to be the ultimate puzzle game for the Amiga, having more of the same wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but this is definitely not more of the same. The theme is identical, but the gameplay is very different. Another complaint point is the fact that this game is written in Amos, which is programming equivalent to Baby's first cutlery set or something like that. But on a personal note, I don't really care whether a game is written in Coffee Machine Basic if it's fun to play. So in that regard, I have no issues with whatever programming language has been used. The issue I do have about this game is that you end up restarting and restarting and restarting and restarting and restarting a few more times because you are given the puzzles one at a time and you don't have an overview of what you are expected to do. So only by playing up to the same point several times will you actually solve the puzzles, and then, yeah, it's not gameplay for me, I can safely say. And on that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.